Hey, what's up? Keith Krantz here. And in this video, we take you through some advanced Facebook ads optimization strategies. What's working right now in mid 2020. So if you're running Facebook ads, Instagram ads, and you're looking to scale things out, you're looking to run your ads a lot more profitable, or if you're looking to run things a lot more systematically and have less time spending in the day-to-day management. This is also one of the kind of the collateral side benefits to this. Warning though, this is not for beginners. This is a panel, we did about a 30-minute session here with my agency and coaching partners. We've got over $350 million in ad spend combined between us with our agency clients and coaching clients. Okay, this is immediate personal clients over the last few years. Ranging from everything from small local businesses to large businesses doing $100 million a year, but the average businesses are probably doing anywhere between 1 to 10 million a year. So trust me, this is relevant no matter what level you're at, but just beware if you're brand new and you're a beginner, it's going to be too high level for you. But if you're not, enjoy, because this is some good stuff. This is what is working when it comes to Facebook ad targeting, Facebook, Instagram ad bidding and budgeting, and some of the different optimization and delivery methods. You'll see a panel of us, but we also get in the ads manager showing you exactly what we're talking about. So enjoy the video. If you like it, subscribe. Click the like button on the video because it helps us with the algorithm and stuff. So talk to you later. Enjoy the video.
I just had a couple insights on things that are working now for us. Nothing really specific, but I just thought, when things are kind of in flux, things sometimes change, and things that worked before don't work as well, and other things start to work better. And inside of our internal conversations, there've been discussions around, I think Rob had brought up, some newer stuff that just refreshing some stuff is working really good at a certain time. For us, one thing that we've been doing is being really aggressive with our scaling, and it seems like more and more often, and again, you have to take this with a grain of salt, but more and more often we've seen that as we scale things up more aggressively, it seems to be, in the current situation, a positive trigger, even more so back to Facebook. And so the more we scale, the lower our CPMs tend to go, and the better our conversion rates seem to get. And so there might be other variables involved in that, but we've seen that we've been able to aggressively scale a lot more. We've doubled 2 of our clients in the last month and a half as far as how much they're spending on Facebook overall. And these aren't like brand new clients. These are clients that we've been working with for a while, and these aren't people who are selling stuff that is kind of crisis centric. It's not like it's financial or health. It's expensive retail stuff. And so I think that no matter where you are, don't feel like you have to maybe pivot to do something that's specific to this from a product standpoint. Just see if you can actually get your current products scaled in a way that makes sense for you. One other just kind of quick tactical thing, and then I'll let some of the other guys talk. But one thing a new guy that we brought on board who's just been crushing it. He's brother of a good friend of mine, and he's been in this space for a while. He's been taking stuff that's working well for us just on a straight auto bid standpoint, duplicating it and putting a bid cap on it. And that both of them side by side have been just crushing. And so it's really simple. You just take a really well-performing ad, like campaign, duplicate it, and instead of doing auto bid, go to bid cap. And the actual bid cap itself is pretty much been at or slightly above our required CPA, and both of the ads have been continuing to do well over time. So something to consider, just kind of doubling your spend very quickly. We've seen that work across 4 of our accounts, and we're starting to test it in a couple of others. So again, not a silver bullet, but something that might work if you guys are looking for a quick way to scale working campaign.
Josh, I can confirm actually on that and add to that as well, that we've done that considerably, and we've actually saw how far we could go with it. And so I've gotten to where we were having 5 or 6 different of those ones duplicated with different bids. And usually that's when we have audiences about 10 million plus on purchase optimization, or 20 million plus. But usually the point of no return is about 5 or 6 of those. Usually, when you're looking at a couple $100 a day per ad set, and we've ran that pretty successfully. But it seems like after 5 or 6, it just seems to partition it too much. But it seems to run, 4 or 5 of them pretty well for a while.
or just two scaling, like we've been just kind of doing two and they're just like vertically scaling them, one with bid, one with auto, and just letting those two go. And Joel asks, wouldn't that cannibalize itself? And you would think yes, but and again, I wonder if Rob might have insights on this too, but for whatever reason, again, the audiences overlap, but the auctions don't seem to be overlapping as much as you'd think, and they both continue to do well. I mean, there's of course going to be a ceiling, but it's a really nice, easy way to take something that's working and do a pretty quick scale on it.
So, what sort of overall spend are you talking there, Josh?
It's about 300, 400 a day on the campaign, on a CBO campaign.
So here's an example here. This is one that's in draft. We were just talking about this yesterday. So see how it says bid cap? It's not running yet, but
yep,
it's funny you're saying that because I just talked about this at the end of the training I did for our 6-week coaching folks.
Oh, cool.
And I like you keep what you already had running. This is something that you wouldn't start with initially because here you might work your way up, right? And so if you go here, question though, because just to make sure there's clarity here, this would be accelerated in your case would not be turned on, right?
No, I don't think we did accelerated on ours. We do use accelerated for certain what we call like sneak attack campaigns and stuff, but usually I do not do accelerated.
In that case, you'd want to do the cost control rather than the bid cap though.
Right.
Or Rob, I mean, if you see that different.
We always use bid cap, always.
Oh, okay, so you don't use cost control at all?
Not for any
for this strategy itself.
Not for anything actually, really. I mean, there's no reason why we haven't, but I mean, we've talked in some of the trainings before about like how the bid and your expected action rate comes together, and so if you control what the actual bid is, we find you kind of get more consistent results. But
yeah, there's one place
it worked for everyone.
Yeah, and I think in one place.
Just before we go deeper, so if I click, this is the campaign. Okay, so now if you click into an ad set here, this is where you would set the actual cap. Is what we're talking. Just so you guys are clear. So here, go ahead and explain how you guys are doing it, Josh. Here. So for me, it's a $49 product. Ideally, the goal would be to get at really below 50, right? But 40 or so would be awesome. So we might start here, maybe at like 28 or something. How is he kind of do? Maybe you start here and then you work your way up. So your volume is low initially. That's why you have your other campaigns still running. Or maybe you start high then work your way down. Like in your case, what would you?
I know people who do it both ways. We're actually, and again, we're probably being a little lazy about this, but we're actually going like, let's say we want to get a $30 CPA, and our other one's getting a $30 CPA or so. We're just kind of going straight with that $30, just throwing that in there, and it seems to be working. Now, if we were to be smarter and a little bit more proactive, we'd probably do either a sneak down or a sneak up approach. But we've been just kind of throwing it out there at our target CPA as long as we're getting that on the original. And what we've seen is the second one actually gets slightly lower CPA. So if we're getting like 30 on the first one that was crushing for us, create the second one, and at least in the short time, we might be getting more like 27, 28 on the one that we set the $30 cost cap or bid cap on. So that's what we've been seeing. And again, it's we haven't really created a big SOP or really tested it out beyond that, but it's something that definitely is working well across everything we're doing.
But yeah, the main thing there is you're not accelerating it, right? With that,
not accelerating it, no. And we hardly ever use acceleration unless it's something where we don't feel like we're going to get enough spend or enough delivery. And like if we're doing like really high bids but really low cost caps, like that type of stuff, Rob, that we've talked about back in the day, that's the only time we use it. But I'm open to ideas.
Yeah, and Rob, I'll let you jump in here, but just real quick so there's clarity. Like for example, if you followed Perry Marshall for a while, Google AdWords, right? Or even like I had some trainings with Tom Breeze and Justin Brook. We talked about bidding, and like with Justin Brook with Google, with the way they typically will bid is bid high. So maybe you're bidding at like $100 if your goal is like a 10 or 20 CPA, and then you can slowly bring it down because you want to get those impressions, right? Now, in this case, if you were to do that, that would be okay. If my goal was to get around 40 or 50, it'd be okay to bid, even 60, as long as I don't have this checked, right, Rob? As long as I don't have this checked right here, accelerated bid. Accelerated, now that's when you're going to want to that's when you might work your way up from lower because it's accelerated. So if you don't have accelerated check, you don't really have a lot of risk at having this cap higher, right? Because Facebook's still going to kind of do its thing. But ideally, you kind of want to shoot for your goal, right? Like Josh said, kind of like what your kind of goal is. So for us, we might put, 40 or 50 or something like that. But you don't have a lot of risk. But if you do have accelerated in there and there's another strategy that you can utilize accelerated, you might start in that case lower and where you're starved impressions, and then you're working your way up to find that sweet spot. So just anyway, does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. I think the accelerated is like, don't do accelerated for your first foray into manual bids, right? Otherwise you'll what it essentially does is takes off all pacing. So if you can spend your money in the first 5 minutes of the day, it will. And that can be great if you've got a bid cap at the right level and a product that converts really well, but it's usually bad news. But what another good manual bid strategy, and we're skipping around a bit, maybe I'll write these down or something, but like actually just going with a normal delivery, like not accelerated, and then bidding super high. So like bidding, let's say you want a $50 bid cap, $50 CPA, bid like $250.
So you go like two, yeah.
Like go 5 times what you want. And what you're basically saying there is like, look, I'm going to bully this auction. I want to be at the top of the auction. I want to get the best quality users. And it's not going to spend your money super fast because you're still going to be paced out through the day. That can work. That can work really nicely, actually. And you tend to find good quality users that way, right? Because when you're winning, like let's say that there's like 5 slots in the feed, the person's much more likely to like take action on that first ad, I think. And let's say there's a group of people that Facebook knows are super prime buyers, and there's some people that are like, yeah, maybe they'll buy. Like it's going to cost more to get to those super prime buyers. So if you bid more, you're saying, I want them. It doesn't always work, but it's often an interesting tactic. And
how long can you let that tactic go?
Forever. It's fine.
Yeah. And I've seen a correlation when we do that is that even when some of those ad sets have gone higher above our target CPA, we look back even after we turned them off, and the people that came from that particular ad are the ones that had the highest LTV and ROAS as well. So it usually paid for itself anyway.
So that can be an interesting thing to combine with value optimization as well. So it's depending on your product set, right? If you've only got one product at one price, it's not going to make any difference. But if you've got a range of products at all different prices, then value-based optimization with a high bid cap can get you some nice users who might cost you more per sale, but may end up having a higher basket value.
And that's always kind of been, like if you're going to start, same thing, if you're going to start in Google, start high, start like maybe 5 or 10 times your CPA, but you can always work it slowly down. If by working it down after you've already got those initial like top of the feed good spots, then it's not going to be a huge risk. Maybe you leave it the whole time and it's fine. We do know when we overdo things too much, what happens? It kind of messes things up. So like you might have one where you just leave it there and then you start another one, right? Start a new campaign and hey, let's try one a little bit lower, or let's try one closer to the actual goal of the bid or of the CPA. So,
okay. Are you guys? Is anyone else finding? We've been finding the last couple months CBO doing more of what they said it was supposed to do, which means we've been jacking up ad spend without dealing with that 20% and creeping it up. Like we're just throwing cash on it and trying to regulate ad sets a little bit by upper and lower spends, but it's been working really well.
That's what I meant at the top of the call when I said scaling a little bit more aggressively with CBO. It's like, go for it, and until it gives you bad results.
Combine more together to make larger. Josh? Like, so, because go for it. Elaborate a little bit so we're clear.
Yeah. So what we do, and we've talked about this a little bit before, and again, not to get too caught up in the actual levers and buttons and stuff, but we'll test using typically ABO, and we'll do kind of smaller-ish audiences. But then as soon as we get winners, we pull them down into bigger audiences. It might be stacked interests or stacked lookalikes. We've done stuff where we've stacked like 1% lookalikes together, or we've done stuff like our add to cart 1% and our purchase 1% and this, viewed content 1%, and any of those that work together. And we've also done others where, like we were talking about this morning, taking our 1 to 3 and then our 3 to 5 and then our 5 to 10, doing stuff like that with lookalike percentages across the board. So when you do that, you have the bigger audiences, you pull down the winning ads into those audiences, and then the bigger the audiences, clearly the more you can scale CBO into. And I imagine, Sterling, that's probably what you were saying, is with these bigger audiences, you can scale a lot more than just that 20% per day per ad set or per CBO or whatever you're talking about.
You guys found it tops out at any point? Like when you say you're scaling them up like willy-nilly, what like absolute dollar numbers are we talking about on an ad set? Oh, sorry, on a campaign.
On a campaign, I'd have to go back and look. But for example, in February, one of our clients, we were spending $30,000, and it's just kind of like a craft client, somebody who does kind of crafts, similar to like crochet or knitting or quilting or whatever. And that was in late February. This month, we're set to spend $80,000 total per month.
Is that a day?
No. That's total per month. That's right, like a small craft thing, right? So we've taken them from a $20,000 a month spend in February to an $80,000 a month spend in April. Just doing this process across a bunch of different, like we don't have one big scaling CBO either. We have several CBOs that we're doing. Some people say just do one big CBO. We like to kind of keep them a little partitioned, but we've literally quadrupled our spend across all of our testing and CBO and content. So I could go back and get you actual, while you guys are chatting, I'll kind of go back in there and take a look at actually from a CBO standpoint where we were at and on a daily, how much we've been scaling day to day, but it's been pretty aggressive. I would say, 50% in some on a daily basis, maybe doubling some if they're doing really well.
The reason I was asking is because we've been like, if we start something at 200 and it works, then we'll bump it to 500. And then if it works at that, we'll bump it to 750. And if it works at that, we'll bump it to 1,000. That's
in a day?
Yeah, per day, per campaign. But once you get over 1,000, it didn't seem to work as well. Now, that I would imagine that varies by account. So, like, in general, I would say, like, better to have 3 500 CBOs, as long as they're really big audiences, than 1,500 is what we've seen.
Are you taking it then back to whatever the 200 or 300 the next day? Or are you leaving it at the 1,000 or the whatever you get to and letting it continue to grow? Or each day?
No, we haven't gone over 1,000 for ages because we've kind of set that as a cap for ourselves now. So
when you get to 1,000, do you pull back to the original like starting point of the previous day? Do you get what I'm asking?
We're not mucking about with this on a day-to-day basis.
Okay.
This is like, we're being a little bit more hands-off on this.
Got it. Cool. Because some people say like, okay, if you're going to scale really fast intraday, at midnight you set it back to the original, $200.
Yeah, no. So sorry, I was being confusing. This is not intraday scaling. This is like if once it started working for a few days, like 5 days, then it's like okay, but we always give it like 2 days before judging it.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I was wondering if it was daily, and I think you were answering another question with
right.
Yes.
Sorry.
So, no worries. Okay, cool. That's more like what we're doing. We're not doing multi intraday scaling like some of the guys that do the real tactical e-commerce stuff. We're more like, we might do 50% one day and then another 50% the next day or something like that.
But that's
how aggressive we get.
We still, if we're doing a launch or something and something's working super well and like we have plenty of sales by 8 a.m., we'll like triple the budget or something like that on those. If it's a time pressed thing,
yeah,
it's like that still seems to work. Like if you get plenty of sales in before 8, then double it or triple it, and then if you get plenty more in before lunchtime, you can double it again. If you've got good audiences, this is usually where we're unsure how well a particular offer is going down with an audience that we think is good. Like we'll maybe start it quite low, a couple of hundred, and then it could be at like 2,000 by the end of the day. But they're rare, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I think
hot to cold.
I think of like Black Friday or something like that, right? Where it's, it's one of those crazy kind of buyers times. But it seems like recently it hasn't been like Black Friday crazy, but to Sterling's point and to your point, it seems like you've been able to get away with a lot more scaling. And I don't know what variables are affecting that. If it's that they figured out CBO, if it's at the lower amount of volume of players inside of Facebook at the end of March and beginning of April affected some of that, or if Facebook maybe internally just kind of changed the dials a little bit that made it a little bit easier to scale and get conversions. I don't know, but
I mean, I think it's entirely to do with the situation, right? It's to do with, right, probably 5 things. I'm going to have to make up what they are, right? But like the whole COVID-19 situation has thrown like many spanners in many works, right? And the biggest one is like a lot of people have stopped advertising, a lot of big players.
Yep.
And so everything is cheaper, but that's driven by a second thing where people are staying home more. So there's way more inventory on Facebook and Instagram because people are scrolling like 10 times as much as they were. I'm making that figure up, but like everyone's on their phones more, right? So there's 2 things there. And then I think there's like, that's exacerbated again by there's at least probably 2 groups of products, right? There's ones that are going to do way better in this scenario. And it's not just like face masks and hand sanitizer, but there's others that are just a dead loss in this scenario, like all travel ads, for instance. There's half, that's a huge chunk of inventory that's gone, and that might be that people want to advertise it, but no one is buying that stuff, right? So there's like, if you've got something that is selling, chances are it's selling better than normal, I find at the moment. If you've got something that is not selling, it's like not just bad, it is dead, right? That seems to be how it's gone. And when you combine all those things together, it's like we've always known it was pretty easy to scale if you had like a absolutely killer creative and offer. Like you could run ads badly and spend a lot of money, right? And I think we're seeing a bit of that, is my opinion. Like if you've got something that like is a hot offer, it's making us look good.
I'm doing a lot of I have a lot of coaching clients with webinars, and the lowest increase in the last month of revenue at the same spend was 2x. And then we have 4x because people are home, can watch the webinar, have nothing else to do. They don't get distracted. And then they buy whatever it is because it's generally not something they have to use outside. So we've been jacked. That's why I was saying, Rob, we've been jacking our spend on like webinar registrations willy-nilly because it's just killing right now.
And yeah, I mean, one thing, how big have you been going on a particular campaign today?
Daily spend?
Yeah.
We just went from $500 to $1,000 a day.
Right.
And I just looked, and none of ours are over $1,000 typically. So I think there is something to, maybe if you had to put a number on something, going to that $1,000 ceiling is, again, depending on if you're doing worldwide broad audience stuff, maybe not, but none of ours are over 1,000 right now. It's just a spread across a bunch of different CBOs.
No CBO itself, or the campaign, like the client total.
No CBO itself,
Okay.
or ad. If we're still doing some ABO stuff too, so no ABO
Campaign.
or CBO. Yeah,
Okay.
No campaign
Cool.
over. Just a lot of them spread out.
Let's okay, so let's touch on unless we want to keep going here. That was pretty okay. Cool.
Just sorry to put the button on that, Rob. I would love if you wrote down your 3 or 4 different manual bidding strategies that you talked about.
I'll try. Yeah, I'll might literally write it in my book and send you a picture of it. But
that's fine.
There you go.
But we might get to this later, Keith, when we talk about the thing I was talking about yesterday. But for me, the big influencer here is the offer / product, as always, right? And people who've got something that it doesn't have to be related to the situation, but it has to be situation appropriate. And if it's more than situation appropriate and like situation ideal, let's say, I don't know, then that's what you want to, that's what you want to make. It's like Zoom is a situation ideal product at the moment, right? So if you can make some, but it's, it's got nothing to do with coronavirus, right? But it's like absolutely, I don't know what its usage must have been, but it's like must be 10 times what it used to be, right? Even my mum is using Zoom now, like it's so there's if you can find something that is like going to be useful and helpful in this time, that's what's going to have the biggest influence on how well you do, I think.
I offered, and it still stands, just nobody took me up on it. I offered in the group, I'll go on a Facebook Live and brainstorm no matter what your business is and offers are right now, to brainstorm ways that you can make them the way that Rob's explaining, a little more situational right now. We threw together a last minute quarantine art challenge for one of my clients, and we're getting 20-cent leads where, I mean, he gets killer leads anyway, but if it wasn't this specific challenge and this offer, it'd probably be 10 times that, around $2. So we just pivoted real fast, and he's going to make an offer. The challenge started 3 days ago, so we'll open and close cart by the next call. I'll tell you how it goes, but he's going to crush it. So if you guys have anything, I'm happy to get on the Facebook Live, and no guarantee I can come up with something, but I got a pretty creative mind, and we can figure stuff out for people if you want.
Yeah, my money's on Sterling. He'll come up with something.
Good stuff. And then remember, you can always adjust your messaging for something that's already, like, take what you have. Like what we did was our challenge, let's lower the price to make it $49. So it's a great entry point price. We can still drive cold traffic into that on the front end. And it can also be an upsell, right? With a lead magnet in front of it, which is our next thing. But it's evergreen. So it's not quite like if you went through the challenge when we started on whatever, October 1st or something like that, you got more, right? So we charge you might have paid $99, you might have paid $149 depending on when you came in. Maybe you paid $79 or something like that. So let's test out $49, but let's tell people why, let's address it. And so like if you look at this campaign right now is evergreen. So we already had, if we were 3 or 4 weeks out from a challenge, it was challenging for the ads to do well, no pun intended. But we said, let's really dial this thing in. Let's make sure we can have it fully evergreen. Let's really optimize the back end. We're not all the way there yet, but right now it's working really, really well. So we'll be doubling probably, ad spend over the next couple of days, and tripling probably as we go into these more wider CBO audiences and continue to dial in the back end. But basically, looking at the result rate the other day, if you look at this one, which is ad set, it's got the most data so far. I know Rob has talked about this before, Josh has talked about this before, but if you go into your columns here and customize columns, you can just search, I think, result rate.
Just the second one down.
Yeah, so it's right there. So put that on your saved column, and then you can order this in result rate. So, and if I go into the ads, I can look here, and what we're noticing is this ad right here, and these are high result rates, especially for B2B. Typically, you want to be close to 0.1 if you can. And most of these are cold audiences. Now, if it's a warm audience like this, I take that with a grain of salt. But if it's an interest audience or like 5 or 6 million like this one, that's good, right? But most of them, the majority, are actually this ad right here. And some of these have the same ad copy as this. And I've shared this. Some of you guys might have already seen this. I emailed this out to the list, but I'll share it in here in case you haven't, because this to me is a good example how to take this current situation and address it without changing your entire funnel. Hey, let's optimize our funnel. We always got so many things, irons in the fire. We're working on this offer. Let's freaking really dial this in during this period of time. Let's let's razor sharpen everything we're doing on the back end, on the front end, on the ads, on the creative, on the upsells, on the sales process on the back end, on the application process, on the webinars, while we're in this period of time, and let's adjust our messaging. So in our case, we didn't go out and I wanted to create another product, but I didn't. I decided not to, and I think it was a good move. Instead, we adjusted messaging, and we can have more like that. But what the other thing is this ad copy here is very following the everlasting ad, right? So Facebook newsfeed, and it's giving them value. It's giving 4 tips, but it's also addressing the current situation. I'll put the link in here. But the point is that the thing you can also do is, hey, this video, I can take the one with Peng Jun. It's not as high a result rate. As you notice, I have to scroll the way down here. This ad killed for our webinar, by the way, before COVID. This ad here, it was kind of funny, and we did at the Creative Cabin. I got to uncheck this other one here. Video that was already done. We created it for a webinar, and then we also, I slightly edited the end of it, the call to action with text overlay to use for the challenge, for the new Evergreen challenge. And then look at the ad copy. It's exactly the same. So, and it's the one that's from that other. So see this, it's the same ad copy, essentially. So that, you know, and if you look at, there's it there. This one, this video is essentially kind of saying the same thing as this. It's addressing the COVID-19, and then it's also making a soft offer. That's what this is doing. But then you can also take other creatives that you have and vice versa. Let's say you'd say one of your clients or something makes a video that's addressing COVID, and then you have other ad copy that doesn't address it. Mix those and match those. Take the one that addresses it, take it with an ad copy that has proven to work before COVID, and put them together. So now you have something that addresses it. You know, maybe if you don't have something in your offer, you can always do it on the creative side.